Hello traders, Gary Wagner here. It is 11:50 in Honolulu, 5:50 in New York on Friday. Happy Aloha Friday, as we say on the islands. It is the 30th day of September 2022, and this is the daily report for gold and silver, our weekend review. It appears as though both gold and silver have been attempting to pivot, in the case of gold from bearish to bullish, and in the dollar from bullish to bearish. Gold this week traded to a low of just about $1,620, broke above $1,680 briefly, and as of 12 o'clock in Honolulu is currently trading down 30 cents at $1,668.30. At the same time, we saw minor U.S. dollar weakness, with the dollar declining by 0.08%. And as you can see, it has also hit a high and moved lower. You can see that on the weekly chart also. Currently, we have the dollar index at 112.115. Lastly, silver staged a nice showing today, gaining 1.62%. And December silver is back above $19 per ounce at $19.01. On today's show, I want to take a look at the dollar and gold through the eyes of Japanese candlestick charts, Japanese Henkin Ashi charts, as well as the Japanese three-line break charts, because those three together will give you a clear indication that we could have seen the beginning of a pivot in the case of the dollar from extremely bullish to bearish, and the opposite in gold, where gold has moved from extremely bearish to bullish. We're looking at a daily candlestick chart. When we look at that, we can see that as this market moved up, it got very, very top heavy right below 115. In fact, this was Wednesday, and we had a series of long green candles. We then had a pivotal candle and a long red candle. It's much more clear when we convert it first to a Henkin Ashi, which I just put up. Now, the key difference between a Japanese candlestick chart and a Henkin Ashi is on a Henkin Ashi, it derives the opening price from the midpoint of the prior candle, in the case of a daily chart from the prior day. And what you look for is a body size. As the body size grows, it shows that the trend is increasing in strength, as well as on the way up, the absence of lower wicks, on the way down, the absence of upper wicks. But the first thing you'll want to see is what's called a pivot candle, in which you go from these long green bodies to extended upper and lower wicks in a small green candle, and then it shifts to red. It's clear to see that there could be a potential pivot point happening in the dollar index. We've just converted our dollar chart to a three-line break chart. It's analogous to a point and figure chart in Western chart styles, but it does away with the element of time, as you can see. But what is interesting is take a look at today's candle, and it is in a different color rather than green or red, showing the pivot from extremely bullish to bearish. Just as we did with the three types of dollar index charts, we're looking at gold. This is a standard Japanese candlestick chart. Opens are real opens. Real bodies are green when it closes higher than the open. Red is the opposite. You can see that it kind of looks like a pivot because we had this low come in on Wednesday and then a move back up. But as we change this to different styles, you'll really notice a difference. First, to a Henkin Ashi. And what we get is the exact opposite of what we saw in the dollar index chart, in which we had a series of red candles, a pivotal candle going from red to green, and then body size beginning to grow. In the same way, When we convert this to a 3-line break chart, watch what happens. Just as we saw in the dollar index, we get a different forecast showing that a pivot has occurred. However, when we move from a daily to a weekly chart, that pivot is not so evident. What we are seeing, for example, in this gold chart is the fact that it traded to about 1621. It challenged 1680 during the week, but closed well below that. We could be witnessing a pivot, but we will have to wait till next week. In terms of gold itself, we would need to see gold trade and close above 1680 before I felt a pivot was in place. And lastly, when we look at the weekly dollar chart in candlestick format, we get the opposite of what we saw. In other words, breaking to a new high, a red candle with a long upper wick. This would be called a shooting star if the real body fell above the prior week's candle right here. This has been Gary Wagner wishing you, as always, good trading. We want to take a serious look to see if we get follow through in trading next week. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.